Hey, awesome students of grade 10. Great of you to join me again today. Continuing Unit 1, North Star, a test of endurance. Today's focus is on listening to. Yep, so we're going to start with that. As you can see here, listening to sports psychology. Okay, as we did last time, you're going to listen a little bit of an introduction or explanation. Then we go into an audio or listening section, and you will do an activity. And I will pause the video so you have enough time to do the activities. And please do them all. So once we meet in our Zoom meeting, it is easy for us to evaluate, right? And if, for example, it is hard for you to hear the audio only one time, take your chance, listen to it as many times as you need. Great? Awesome. Okay. Now, first things first is the vocabulary. As you know, we have a vocabulary all compiled together at the back of your book. And that gives you just an idea of all the words that are used in Unit 1. A reminder, for your speaking project as well as your writing project, it is very important that you will use the words that are in Unit 1. So you can focus on the unit word list, which is for listening and speaking on page 216, and you can incorporate those words in your speaking project. And then for your writing project, you can look at the word list at the back of your book for reading and writing and incorporate those words in your writing project. Cool. Now, if we're looking at your unit word list of Unit 1, we see here the words achieve, challenge, course, experience, format, get into, goal, marathon, motivation, opponent, ration, stage, tent, terrain, and unique. So please, guys, take some time, flip to the back of your book and look at the words. Yes? Using the words, the vocabulary used in this unit, and also the grammar, all of that together should be applied while you're doing your speaking and your writing, since this is project-based learning. Right. Okay, we continue. Here we are seeing the heading of the vocabulary, and you see 3 pictures. Now, 3 different pictures of 3 different types of sports. Yes? Now, the first thing we see here is read the conversation, notice the bold-faced words. So here we can see the outstanding words are goal, achieve, motivation, opponents, and challenge. Correct. What goal do you hope to achieve in an ultra marathon? I just do my best. It's hard to have the motivation to keep going. I know my opponents feel the same way, but we like the challenge of trying to do something really difficult. Okay, that is the conversation, right? Now here we see these 5 bold-faced words, and now the point is that you are going to make the connection. So you're going to match the word with the definition of that word. So you see your choices. There are 5 choices, and how are they connected? Let's do number 1 together, shall we? Goal, right? What is a goal? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C, D, or E? What do you think? Come on. What do you think? Yeah, of course, it's D. Cool. It is something you plan to do in the future. Exactly. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do number 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can pause your video to answer number 2 until 5. Go ahead. Great. Okay, those are the 5 words that we focused on for now. Continuing with comprehension. Okay, so you're going to listen to an excerpt from a sports psychology class lecture. about the motivation of endurance athletes. Do you remember? Last time in the last video, we talked about endurance, that you keep going and you do not give up. Now, and so for athletes, most of the sports that athletes do take a lot of motivation and perseverance to press forward, not only to win, but also in their training, in their preparation, yeah, for competitions. What you're going to do is you're going to listen to this excerpt and then you're going to complete each statement. Now, the options are already there for you. You just have to circle the correct option, which will complete the sentence and will make it correct in its meaning. Okay? Let's listen to the audio first.
So last time, when we were discussing the growth of endurance sports, a question came up about the motivation for getting into these sports. Why would anyone want to go through so much physical pain and stress? What's in it for them? Well, looking at the research, there are a couple points that seem especially important. One of these is the personality of endurance athletes. As a group, these people tend to be high achievers. People who set high goals for themselves, both in sports and in life in general. They like difficult challenges, and they aren't happy with goals that are easy to achieve. So, endurance sports fits right into this type of personality. These sports are very difficult, very extreme, like ultramarathons, where people run hundreds of miles, often in extreme heat or cold. But the athletes get a lot of satisfaction from it. And when setting goals, most endurance athletes don't focus on winning the race. Instead, they have personal goals, like maybe just finishing the race is enough, or finishing with a better time than before. So it's really more about the athletes challenging themselves, doing their personal best, and always pushing to do better. Another source of motivation is the relationship between the athletes. In general, endurance athletes don't see the other athletes in a race as opponents or people they're trying to beat. Instead, they see them as partners. Partners in this unique adventure, doing something that no one else is doing. They share the highs and lows of the race, the pain and the pleasure, and they feel that they are in the experience together. And the athletes report this as a life-changing experience, an emotional high that keeps them wanting to come back for more. So this strong emotional experience is a big part of the motivation.
Okay, so that was the audio. The reason why I let you listen to it first is to get acquainted with the topic. Last week, we learned, or basically in the last video for listening one, we learned that it is important to do previewing. Remember that with previewing, you predict the type of audio, and therefore you would be able to predict the purpose of the audio, and that will set a focus for you to listen, kind of telling you what to listen for. That's why introductions and topics are so important. Now, as I said just now, this is an excerpt of a sports psychology class lecture. So we are focusing on the motivation of endurance athletes. So there will be several points of the motivation that will be mentioned. Now, before you answer this, you have to annotate. Something we learned in listening one video, annotate first. So please take a moment to underline, circle, or highlight. If you like color coding, that's a good one. Do that. Every keyword in the question, so in number 1 out of 5, but also in the answer choices, so it is easier for you to recognize. Then I will turn on the audio one more time, and while you're listening, you're going to answer, meaning that you are listening and reading and choosing the correct answer all at the same time. Doing these things all at the same time might be very confusing. That's why it is so important for you to have read through the sentences and answer choices first and annotated them. Okay, I'm gonna give you a sec to do that. Go ahead. Okay, as you have already annotated number 1 until 5, you are going to listen to the audio one more time. And while you're listening, answer these questions, complete these sentences by choosing the correct um, clause or phrase to complete the sentence. Okay? Good luck.
So, last time when we were discussing the growth of endurance sports, a question came up about the motivation for getting into these sports. Why would anyone want to go through so much physical pain and stress? What's in it for them? Well, looking at the research, there are a couple points that seem especially important. One of these is the personality of endurance athletes. As a group, these people tend to be high achievers. People who set high goals for themselves, both in sports and in life in general. They like difficult challenges, and they aren't happy with goals that are easy to achieve. So, endurance sports fits right into this type of personality. These sports are very difficult, very extreme, like ultra marathons, where people run hundreds of miles, often in extreme heat or cold. But the athletes get a lot of satisfaction from it. And when setting goals, most endurance athletes don't focus on winning the race. Instead, they have personal goals, like maybe just finishing the race is enough, or finishing with a better time than before. So it's really more about the athletes challenging themselves, doing their personal best, and always pushing to do better. Another source of motivation is the relationship between the athletes. In general, endurance athletes don't see the other athletes in a race as opponents or people they're trying to beat. Instead, they see them as partners. Partners in this unique adventure, doing something that no one else is doing. They share the highs and lows of the race, the pain and the pleasure, and they feel that they are in the experience together. And the athletes report this as a life changing experience, an emotional high that keeps them wanting to come back for more. So, this strong emotional experience is a big part of the motivation.
Exactly. Great. There you go. Number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, you can pause your video to go over your answers and then we will continue. Go ahead. Okay, cool. Here we are again. We continue with the listening skill, and our focus is signal words. What are signal words? Basically, when you hear the word signal, it already tells you that it gives you a sign. Now the point is, what is it signing for? We've got a lot of signs. We've got lots of signs in traffic. We've got signs when we speak to people, when we use gestures or even facial expressions. There are a lot of different types of signs. Now, in language, besides expressions and gestures, there are also signs that we give through the words we use. So the particular words we use. For instance, if I would say to you, okay, and this is important, pay attention, those are words that would signal that something is important. Or, for example, my intonation, when my voice goes up or goes down. Or emphasis, when I'm emphasizing on a particular point. Then maybe my voice is a little bit stronger, and that shows that that is an important point. Now, Signal words tell you what to expect next. It gives you an input or hey, something else is coming, and it directs you in what is going to come next. So a speaker uses signal words to help the listener, you in this case, to understand what the next idea will be. So signal words are very important to connect a speaking and also to help the listener just easily, so the listener can easily follow and better understand what is being said. Now, you're going to listen to an excerpt from the psychology lecture, and what will the professor discuss next? Or what word does the speaker use to signal that information? And let's look at that for a moment. What does it look like, or what does it sound like when a speaker uses signal words? Yeah.
Well, looking at the research, there are a couple points that seem especially important.
See, in this case, it mentions there are a couple of points, and then there are a couple of points shows that there are several points that are going to be discussed, and that also directs you in listening, that you will listen for that. You're going to listen for several points to come, and that is where your focus lies then. Yeah.
Why would anyone want to go through so much physical pain and stress? What's in it for them? Well, looking at the research, there are a couple points that seem especially important.
Okay, so this is an introduction, and this introduction is very clear. It starts with questions, so basically that will be the focus of our talk. And then it mentions that there are a couple of points, and he emphasizes that, the speaker emphasizes that, because that's what the talk will be about. And that is then also what you will take notes on. That should be your focus, okay? So we gotta listen for the signal words that will direct us to what to listen for. And those signal words, in this case, like the example, there are a couple of points, that is at the same time also the purpose of the talk. Yes, awesome. Okay, let's listen to the excerpts. And what signal words does the speaker use? Circle the correct answer. So we've got A until D, and you are going to circle the correct one. You gotta do that while you are listening at the same time. So before we do that, I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to annotate again. What was that again? Yes, underlining, circling, or highlighting the keywords. Awesome. Go ahead. Okay, let's try it. Here we go.
1.
Well, looking at the research, there are a couple points that seem especially important. One of these is the personality of endurance athletes.
2.
And when setting goals, most endurance athletes don't focus on winning the race. Instead, they have personal goals, like maybe just finishing the race is enough.
3.
So it's really more about the athletes challenging themselves, doing their personal best, and always pushing to do better. Another source of motivation is the relationship between the athletes.
4.
And the athletes report this as a life-changing experience, an emotional high that keeps them wanting to come back for more. So this strong emotional experience is a big part of the motivation.
Yeah, well done. Okay, now when we're looking at these numbers, there's something that we need to, what I need to mention here is this. If you look at number 1, it focuses on introducing a point. So when we introduce a point, we can say there's a particular phrase or word that we will use for introducing a point. Or, for example, a signal word that emphasizes on a contrast. It is different from introducing a point. You can contrast. Now, meaning that you will have to use a contrasting word. Another one, number 3, is adding another point. So you've already stated a point and you're adding another one. What kind of signal word will we use for that, right? Number 4, also interesting, introduces a result that is different. So what type of signal word is appropriate for emphasizing a result? Exactly. Now, some of you already know this. These signal words are very similar to what we call transition words. Now, in a writing, we would use transition words to connect our ideas. So the ideas in one paragraph all are connected, and between paragraphs it is connected as well. In speaking, we call those signal words, but basically those are also transition words that help us to connect ideas and make our talk fluent, and they emphasize on introducing a point, let's say showing a contrast, adding another point, and even showing a result. Okay? Cool beans. Yeah. We continue to connect the listenings. Now, this is connecting the listenings basically from listening 1, part 1, and listening 2, part 2, what we're doing right now. So you had the ultra runner Jay Batchen, and today we talked about sports psychology. So 2 different audios, but are all talking about sports. Now listen to an excerpt from listening 1 and read the excerpts from listening 2. Then you write examples from listening 1 that support the ideas in listening 2. So we're kind of trying to connect both listenings into one. How are they connected? How are these 2 listening sections correlated? Now, in listening 1, the first point is, what are some of the challenges that Jay Batchen faced? Yeah, what are the challenges? So if you annotate this, some challenges faced, right? Number 2, what are Jay Batchen's personal goals? Jay Batchen's personal goals. 3, how does Jay Batchen feel about the other athletes in this race? Feel other athletes race. And that part will be connected to the part next to it. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Number 1, what are some of the challenges that Jay Batchen faced? Well, he faced heat, wind, sandstorms, cold temperatures all at night. So the cold temperatures were at night and the rest were during the day. That were some of the challenges that he had to face. Now, if you look at listening 2, we see as a group these people tend to be high achievers. They like difficult challenges and they are not happy with the goals that are easy to achieve. This shows that both texts are related. So talking about the challenges that Jay Batchen faces, like heat, wind, sandstorms, cold temperatures at night, is correlated to the fact in listening 2 that speaks of that athletes like difficult challenges. They don't like it easy. They like these challenges. That makes it fun, and I think that gives them a certain satisfaction. So you can see that both are related. Now I'd like you to answer number 2, what are Jay Batchen's personal goals, and see how that is related with listening 2. Then you go to 3, how does Jay Batchen feel about the other athletes in the race? And then you look at how that is correlated to listening 2. Okay? That's great. Now, I'm going to turn on the audio.
That's a good question, and it's a question that many people ask. And what I tell them is that this race is more than a race. It's a life experience. And what I mean by that is you're sharing a tent with 8 other people, and you're going through the same highs and lows every day. It might not be at the same time, but you're running in the same heat, you're running in the same wind, you're sleeping in the same sandstorms and on the cold nights. And for me, it's about meeting the other people that are running this event and sharing stories with them and sharing the experience with them. And it's so hard to describe to someone who hasn't been there and run the event. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's completing the distance and knowing that I can do it, and feeling that I can do it, but it's meeting the people from all over the world, from all walks of life, and just sharing it with them that makes it special.
Okay. Try to answer number 2 and number 3. You can pause your video. Okay, we continue with step 2, which is synthesizing. Now, synthesizing sounds like a very difficult word. You must have heard of the word synthesizer. Synthesizer is a musical instrument, right? Some refer to it as a keyboard, but it is different. Synthesizers only have sounds, whereas keyboards have sounds and rhythms. Now, synthesizer is a very interesting electrical piano, let's call it that way, because you can combine all sorts of sounds and even with that create a new sound. Now hold that in mind. That is exactly what synthesizing is. You're using multiple sources. For example, in this case, information from listening 1, and then you have information from listening 2. And information from both sources combined together can create a new idea. That is synthesizing. So basically with synthesizing, we are combining factors in order to create something new. So what we're doing right now is looking at statements. We have 3 statements here. And basically, I'd like to know what you think that this professor of sports psychology, whether he would agree with those statements or not. Let's look at number 1. Running in the marathon, the Zabel, was a difficult challenge for Jay Batchen. Do you think, so this is based on listening 1. Now let's think about listening 2. Yeah, think about what the professor said. Do you think that the professor would agree with the statement? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah, he would. He would agree. Because if you look at the information in listening 2, it would say that endurance athletes always look for difficult challenges. We talked about that just now, that they don't want it easy. See here? They like difficult challenges. They aren't happy with goals that are too easy to achieve. So yeah, he would definitely agree. Now, I'd like you to try number 2 and number 3. So you write down whether the professor agrees or not. Yes, agree, or no, or disagree. And then mention the part that shows it that is taken from listening 2. Pause your video and try to figure that one out. Go ahead. Okay, very good. Now, after having done this, we have completed listening 2, meaning that our next video will be focus on speaking. Okay? Now, so basically what we did today was talking about vocabulary. Yeah? So we talked about achieve, goal, motivation, opponent, and challenge. Yes, and then we went over the comprehension. You had to listen and complete the sentences, so be able to grasp what the audio mentioned and knowing which phrase or clause or part of sentence would be the correct one to complete the sentence and make a complete idea. Then we talked about signal words. Remember? Signal words that are super important to show what comes next, helps guide the listener to follow the audio, but it also directs the listener to what is gonna come next. And that makes it easy for the listener to understand what it is about and directs in how to take notes. Cool. And last but not least, we learned what synthesizing is, which is the combination of multiple factors or sources to combine or create something new. And how could listening 1 be connected to listening 2? Basically, they're all connected. Now, for that, you got to analyze a little bit to see how that connection works. You did a great job today. I'm very grateful for attending this video, watching it, and we'll be back with more, and I'm excited for you to join again. God bless you. Bye.